What do you hear? What do you say?
Oh, welcome back, guys. G Funky Boxing. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the like button, hit that notification bell. Okay, that's the most important thing. This way, you don't miss out on any content that comes out. Guys, being joined by my good friend here, Joseph Haran from War a Week Radio. Let's give him a hand. Yes, indeed.
You know what, brother? I'm so sorry. I just noticed right now that my header under my name still says Real Talk with Rick Glazier. My apologies, man.
Hey, that's all right. We'll use it as an advertising real quick. Guys, every Monday night now, I will be over on War Week Radio with Joe and with Rick. We'll be doing the show every Monday. So make sure that you guys subscribe to War Week and check us out, man. It's always a great time talking boxing with these two guys here. But man, I know it's a little bit late for some of you guys, but I appreciate all of you being here. Okay, early on, we got round one here. That man's always here. Appreciate him. Fotex, E. Woodson, what's up, guys? Got things got going on with the family and everything. And you know what the Don says about family, right, Joe? This is what he says right here.
You spend time with your family?
Sure I do.
Good. Because a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
You're damn right.
Yeah, it's the genius of Mario Puzo, because you can find every answer to life's big mysteries just by watching The Godfather 1, 2, and 3.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, guys.
Well, hey, look. Before you go on, G, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. But I will say this, though. That song, that beautiful intro, and might I add, that's the best intro to any YouTube boxing channel.
Appreciate that, man.
Great job with the Fender Strat. But I will say this, though. I can't stand it the way Americans, they will make up their own words to a foreign song. Like the original song is Tarantella, right?
Yes.
And it's about a mother-daughter relationship, a daughter coming of age, right? And that's why they played it for The Godfather. He's given his daughter away, The Godfather, to start the book, right?
Yes.
And what is it called? In American, they made up their Speak Softly, Love. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
What the hell is that, dude?
Yeah, exactly. And hey, man, I appreciate the compliment on the intro. Hey, man, you know how it is, man. That smooth, buttery, silky smooth tone of that Strat, with a little bit of chorus and just a slight bit of delay on that thing. Man,
Gorgeous.
sounds great.
Gorgeous.
But guys, this is going to be a fun show tonight, guys, because we're going to talk about commentary, man. And in the title of the show, it says, does today's boxing commentary have big fight feel? You know, and I don't know, man. For me, I'll just be honest, man. Fotex says that's questionable. But you know, let me pull up my thumbnail real quick, guys, because I put these images on this thumbnail for a reason. Okay, see on the top we have the big three, right? We have ESPN Top Rank, we have PBC Showtime, Matchroom, DAZN, and then on the bottom two we have the classics, guys. I mean, on the bottom left you have the old Showtime commentary team, and then on the right you got the HBO commentary team. Shout out to big Manuel Stewart there. Rest in peace, Manuel Stewart. Also, rest in peace to the fight doctor who's on the other side there, Dr. Ferdy Pacheco. All right.
Ferdy Pacheco.
Yeah, he was always great, man. But yeah, I don't know, man. For me, I'll just be honest with you. I don't get that same feel. Now, it might just be me, and you guys might feel different. Joe might feel different from me. But when I go back and watch fights with these gentlemen on the bottom of the thumbnail calling the fight,
Yep.
it just has a different feel, man. You know, and I'm not saying that these guys on the top aren't good. They're all very good at what they do. That's the reason why these networks hired them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And look, Joe will tell you he does this stuff, right? He commentates for fights, for promoters and stuff like that on shows. It is not an easy profession to get in. So these guys have to be good at what they do. But I'm just saying, for me, it doesn't give me that same feel. And all this stuff was coming up because Joe and I had a conversation, right? And we always talk about what could we do to improve boxing, to make it better for the fans. And, you know, we talked, man, and we were like, you know what? Commentary just doesn't have that big fight feel. And for a fight like Spence Crawford, right, we got undisputed for first time in the 4-belt era that we're going to get an undisputed champion at one of the original weight classes in boxing, welterweight.
Yep.
I mean, and this is the reason why I put that poll out there. Some of you guys might have seen it, but I feel like they should hire a voice, someone that is, like you say, Joe, synonymous with big fights, you know?
That's it.
And that's exactly why I put in the poll. If you guys haven't seen it yet, it's out there on my community page. Just tap on the community tab. I have a poll where I said, who would you rather have call the fight next Saturday? Ronaldo or Tompkins? Right? Because Barry Tompkins still works for Showtime. He does the Showbox cards. And he's got, I mean, he called so many big fights for HBO. He was their first guy when they first got into boxing.
The voice of HBO boxing, yes, sir.
Yes, man. He called all the big fights that happened over there. I mean, from the Larry Holmes versus the Michael Spinks to Leonard Hearns. I mean, Arguello Pryor. I mean, we could go on and on and on. You know, the classic, you know, how do you like it? How do you like it? When Ray Leonard is shoe shining on Marvin Hagler, like, those are just fantastic moments. I mean, we go to Jim Lampley as well. You know, he's had great moments at his time as the guy over there. Me personally, and I said this in the community, I said I would rather have Barry Tompkins come in for this fight because when you hear his voice, you just think big time boxing, man.
Yep.
And I don't know, do you do the same, Joe?
Look, man, Mauro Ronaldo is a professional. And he is very smart, very witty, very personable, very charismatic. I don't think there are very many roller coasters that he could actually ride on legally, but he is very, very skilled and very, very good at what he does. But, yeah, you said it. Because he spreads himself too thin and he takes on way too many assignments, rather than being exclusive to Showtime Championship Boxing, that brand, that legacy. He is. You just don't think of big time events, historic nights with Mauro Ronaldo making the call. One It's perception. It doesn't mean he's not great at what he does. It's just perception.
Yep.
Once again, it's just like in the music industry, right? Taylor Swift. She is the best-selling female artist right now. Compare her to Joni Mitchell.
Oh boy.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
once again, it's once again compare to even Carly Simon.
Mm-hmm.
Don,
Carol King.
Carol King.
Yeah.
Janet
Yeah.
Jackson. I'll go on and on and on. So once again, no one will ever mistake her for being the most talented, but she's still good enough, and she still presents a good enough product where people want to come out and support her in droves. Maybe it's a generational thing, and I think that may be what's happening. Maybe happening here, right? Because when I became enamored with the craft, yeah, it was always guys with that sing-song method of delivery, right? Because I'm old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Jimmy Lennon is probably the only ring announcer that still uses it besides myself. Fight fans, here we go. It's time for the main event of the evening, right? It's that old Prohibition era type delivery that he learned from his dad, right? And that to me, that is big time boxing. That's why I love Jimmy. He's my favorite and maybe the greatest of all time. And then you listen to Howard Cosell, the best to call a big time fight.
Oh yeah, back in those days.
Here
Hey
comes
Joe.
Frey. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, man. Again, family stuff. Could you read this comment and I'll be right back? I promise I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. Of course. FYI, Don Dunphy. Yes, the man was the first blow-by-blow man for HBO, whose first main event was Foreman Frazier. Yes, that's right. He was there for a few shows, after which Tompkins took over. Huge shoes to fill, but Barry did it. Lee, thank you for gracing us with your presence, sir. Always a plethora of information. And yeah, we've been all reading you for years, my brother. So thank you for being here, and thank you for that tidbit. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
And then, yeah, of course.
Okay.
And that was back when Don Dunphy was first making the call for HBO, right? It was back when HBO didn't start until the evening, right?
Fotex
it was only.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Fotex is impressed with your impersonation there of Jimmy
Thank
Lennon,
you.
dude. That's nothing,
Thank you, Al.
Fotex.
I appreciate it, brother.
If you're still there, Fotex, you gotta hear the Lupe Contreras. Let me hit it, man. Hit me with it. All right.
All right. Since Nonito is actually getting the nod now.
Yes, he's on the card.
His fight was moved to Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. I'll do that, right? Lupe announcing the old man of the bantamweight division, Nonito Donaire. And I love the way Lupe announces it because he pronounces his surname the way it's supposed to be pronounced, right? Introducing the Filipino Flash, Nonito Donaire.
That is fantastic, man. That is so on point with Lupe. And guys, if you haven't heard Lupe in person, oh my gosh, yeah, the guy has golden pipes, man, and that is right on point. I love it,
and
I love
the best part is he's a great, humble guy. Right?
Yes, he is. Very nice guy. Yeah. Very nice guy. I met him in person earlier this spring. So shout out to Lupe, man. I love him. Nice guy. And again, that voice is just golden, man. And thank you for pointing that out to us, Lee. I had a feeling I couldn't remember the guy's name, but as far back as I can remember, before Lampley, it was Tompkins that I would hear on those calls for HBO. And he's got, I mean, again, his voice just, I mean, I can't help but think of all those big classic fights from the past. And guys, what am I doing here? I wanted to open up the phone line so we could talk to you guys about this. Or if anybody wants to call in and give us their thoughts on boxing commentary these days, man. And I want to before I do that, let me read off the poll. Now, I put a poll on Twitter as well, guys. But in the community tab, right now, currently, Barry Tompkins is in the lead at 53% to Ronaldo at 47. Now on Twitter, it's a little bit of a different story. Okay, I put the same poll up on Twitter, and currently Ronaldo is up 10% at 55 to Tompkins 45. So, it's pretty close, man. It's a pretty close
Oh boy.
poll on both of them.
Sign of the times, brother. Sign of the times. Chingo. Well,
Yes.
I tell you what, since we have the boxing historian, right?
Yeah.
You know what? You know what's funny? And can you post Lee's comment, right? He says,
Oh,
Joseph,
there
had
we go.
anyone told you that your speaking voice sounds a bit like Ray Flores? Yes, I
boy.
get that all the time between Ray and Steve Kim. I get that all the time. And you know what? Both of those are compliments. Both of those gentlemen are charismatic. Both of them speak very, very well. So thank you, Lee. I appreciate it. Much respect to both of those gentlemen.
Yes, sir. And Ray Flores, another classic voice, man.
Yep. Well, you're thinking the same thing I am, brother. And it's funny because I do voices all the time, and he will do something to get that certain timbre in his voice and to get that bottom end when he actually does the announcing. You'll see that he'll have to move his neck and his jaw a certain way.
Yeah.
To where he turns a little bit and distorts his face. So yeah, I study everything, guys. That's how I know how to do this, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I sing also for a living. So
Fotex says, "Okay, that's good. Yeah, that is superb. That Lupe Contreras,
thank
that
you,
Joe
brother.
does. It is just fantastic."
Well, just FYI, just out of curiosity, because Lee is the consummate historian and he is a treasure among the boxing community here in the States. I will ask him this: who is your favorite commentary team that you've ever seen? Who is the one that you're most fond of? And once again, there are no right or wrong answers here.
Yep. Like I said, guys, this is a fun show. This is not about like, a prediction or a film study, which I like to do here on the big fights. And we will be doing that for the Inoue Fulton fight that's coming up next Tuesday. All right, guys, at 5 a.m. my time. He says he needs an Alf impression. Oh boy.
Willie.
So if anybody wants to call in and give us their thoughts on this topic, and again, this is not meant to put these guys down who currently do the commentating for all the boxing that we see today. It's just, I don't know, for me, I just don't get that feel. Like watching Devin Haney versus Vasyl Lomachenko back in May on their pay-per-view fight. And Joe and I, we both talked about this before we went on air, and we agreed that, it's just 2 Friday night fights for me with Joe Tessitore, man.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that he's not good. He's very good. But all those years of calling the fights on Friday with our guy, Teddy Atlas, I don't know if you want to hit him with a Teddy or not, but
maybe, just maybe, we'll see that big upset tonight. Bing!
Thank you, Teddy. Lee here says his favorite was Tim Ryan and Gil Clancy. Gil Clancy. That's a classic voice.
Brilliant.
We're getting a phone call, guys. Give me a second. Speaking of the man, we got him on the line now. Lee Groves, how's it going, man?
Woo-woo!
Doing well, gentlemen.
Thanks for calling.
Doing well, gentlemen.
Brother, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us tonight in this very, subjective subject, right?
Very much so.
Yes.
But
So hit us with it, Lee. What do you got on this one, man? How do you feel about today's commentaries team against the past? Do you get that same feeling like you do from the guys like the old Showtime commentating team and the old HBO commentating team?
Well, I think one reason why we feel that way is because, when you're competing against a ghost, you lose. right? I mean, we look back. We look back at, you know, the commentary teams of the past, the ones that we listened to during our formative years as fans. I mean, we look back upon those years very fondly anyway, and we make those connections to those commentary teams, to those halcyon days. And since they're not there anymore, we tend to idealize them. Make no mistake, those teams were very, very good, and they're still the gold standard. Like I mentioned, my favorite commentary team was Tim Ryan and Gil Clancy. Both are in the Hall of Fame. Both should be, both deservedly in the Hall of Fame. But you know, and also it was much easier in the halcyon days to make the big fights, right?
Yeah, when it was still
another,
it was still treated like a sport, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it is so I mean, you take a look at the fight that's going to take place on July 29th, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. How many years and how much angst was there in putting together the fight? So many issues, broadcasters, you know, rehydration, rematch clauses, the whole deal. We just don't get the same amount of big fights with the same frequency, and therefore there's less connection, you know, less chance for this generation to connect with the commentary teams of today.
That's a great point.
You know.
Yeah, that's a great point.
A great point, Lee, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I'll admit it. Like there is, you know, again, like you said, competing with ghosts. When you grow up listening to these guys call these big, and I mean, they called some of the biggest fights in the history of the sport. You know, like the HBO team, they called, I mean, Trinidad De La Hoya, De La Hoya Mayweather. I mean, gosh, so many. And then the guys on the Showtime, when Tyson got out of prison, you know, they were calling all those fights that he had, the Holyfield fights, and oh man, yeah, it's when I listen to them, I'm like, man, it just sounds so different. And I didn't want to come off as a guy like, you know, these guys aren't good today. I don't know. I just don't get that same feeling, man. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I just feel like for big fights like this, man, I would love to hear Tompkins get back on the mic and call the main card, you know. I don't, that's just me, man.
You know what? You know what?
Sure.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lee. Go ahead, sir. My apologies.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say Don Chargan. The great Don Chargan, may his soul rest in peace. Yeah, he used to tell me that it's just like music. It's a generational thing. The music that you fell in love with growing up, it's always the same way in boxing. Those were always the best era. That was the best era in boxing, in your heart and in your mind, the one that you grew up with. And so, yeah, it's the same with the commentary team. That's synonymous with big time boxing. And what G Funky stated earlier, correct me if I'm wrong, Lee. And once again, Joe's a great guy, very humble, hardworking guy, professional through and through. But he will always sound like fights. It just does not feel when he makes the call. And once again, he's great. He does a great job, very professional, has a great voice, but he will always be synonymous with B-level boxing, in my opinion. Like Haney Lomachenko on pay-per-view on ESPN, it just did not feel like a big-time event. That's just my opinion.
I like Joe Tessitore. He's actually a friend of mine. And, you know, he is very prepared. He has the pipes. He knows how to do the drama. I think that he's among the very best of today, and I think one day he will be in the Boxing Hall of Fame.
Agreed. Lee. Once again, I'm not taking a slide. And once again, I know Joe as well. He's a great guy, and he's very humble, and he's very professional, very good at what he does. Yeah, unfortunately, it's just in my mind, and that's just my opinion. He's great, and this is not a slide. It's just forever in my mind and in my heart. Whenever he makes the call, it sounds like Friday night fights.
Yeah, for me too.
Once
man.
again,
That's how we
it's just-
got
it's
introduced
just-
to him. You know, he did the
That's
Tuesday
it.
night fights, Wednesday night fights, Friday night fights. That's
Mhm.
Yep.
that's where
Yep.
we first heard him, and that's what we associate him with. For fans of a certain age, of which I certainly am. I come from the Paleozoic era, as you know. But so
Mhm.
Oh boy, I like that one. Let me read here Champ Ross's comment. He says the difference back then to me was if you watched the fights, you didn't know who the favorite was. They would call the fight down the middle, how they see it. It just comes across different now. Yeah, I would say there are certain networks where you can kind of tell, who the house
Yeah.
fighter is and things like that.
Well, no, now they're all that way, G Funky, because every
They
network now has an in-house promoter. That's not
Mhm.
good for the health of the sports, and as a result, you get slanted coverage all around. Lee, what are your thoughts on that, sir?
yeah, I agree. There is a bias, and it does color the commentary. It does color the way that we perceive the broadcasts, and a lot of times, I know that I read on Twitter, and I do this myself when scoring fights live. I do so with the voice down. No insult to the commentators, but if you want to score the fight fairly and objectively, it's always a good idea to have the sound down, and then you see how it stacks out.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I often do that as well. I know when I have fight parties and I have my friends here, they really like to hear the commentary. As for me, I'm kind of like, I could do without it, but they enjoy it. So maybe it's just one of these things with hardcores like us, because we've
Yeah.
watched so much boxing throughout the years. Some of you in the chat go back a little bit further. Maybe you don't go back as far as me, but we've all watched a ton of boxing. And for me, I really like Steve Albert doing the blow by blow back in the day, and Bobby Ches and the Fight Doctor Freddie Pacheco. Those guys were
Mhm.
great, man. I really enjoyed listening to them back in the day.
Yep, indeed.
Agreed.
Indeed.
Agreed. They were very good, and the production was very good too.
Oh yes, it was
Outstanding.
fantastic.
Outstanding.
Those
Now-
old
now,
King,
Lee-
King cards were the best, man.
Lee, could you imagine today Diego Corrales versus Jose Luis Castillo called by that broadcast team and then being on regular subscriber Showtime these days?
You mean the Freddie Pacheco and that crew?
Yeah. Steve Albert
It
was
Steve
with
Albert
Bobby
and
Ches.
Bernstein, I think, did it originally. I think.
Oh, what was it?
I think
was
did
it Bobby
Showtime
Ches on
Championship
that broadcast?
Boxing.
No,
Yeah.
I believe it was just Steve Albert was the blow by blow guy, and Al Bernstein was the color.
You know what?
guy,
You
I
may
believe.
be right. You may be Bobby Ches may have already left. You may be right.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
my
I think so.
point
Yeah.
is though, the communication amount on regular subscriber Showtime.
Oh,
Another
boy.
thing that's really hurting the is,
Joe,
and,
I'm gonna put him on mute for a second. Yeah, you're choppy right now, Joe. Yeah. Can you hear us now, Joe? Joe, you there?
yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, we can hear you clear now. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okay, my apologies, guys. My apologies. But basically what I was saying was, can you imagine a fight of that caliber these days being actually held on a regular subscriber network? Because of the business of it, because of the inflated purses, right? It's very hard to imagine a unification of that caliber in one of the original divisions actually being staged on regular subscriber Showtime or whatever. And that, in my opinion, the accessibility of it, of the best events, the best fight cards, it's being held behind a pay-per-view paywall, a revenue stream, and that's hurting the health of the sport. Your thoughts on that, sir?
no doubt about it. I've written about that many times over the years. That boxing's departure from free over-the-air network television, like it was in the 1970s and 80s and through the early 90s, really has harmed the sport, because it has, it just shrunk the viewer base to a point where boxing was once one of the big four, big five sports in the United States, and everybody knew who the heavyweight champion of the world was. In fact, the heavyweight champion was the epitome of sporting dominance, the hero of the American public. And now you could just go to the street and you ask, who is the heavyweight champion of the world? And you go, what, UFC?
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's a great point, Lee. That is great. Yeah. And
and the thing about it is that the reason why is because MMA and its stars have marketed themselves masterfully in the era in which boxing left a void when they left network television, and MMA moved in masterfully, and they put themselves on platforms beyond just basic cable, whatever. They had the bully beatdown show, I believe. They had UFC fighters be the ones who beat up the bullies, and they became heroes. And the familiarity with the audience, the general public, is one of the big reasons why MMA is so popular, and that boxing is lagging. We need big events held. We need fights like Spence and Crawford every 2 months. Every 2 months.
You are just killing it. You are burning the house down right now, Lee. I agree with everything you just said, man. And Champ Ross here says that he thinks Showtime should have kept Gus Johnson as a boxing coach. I thought Gus was really good too, man.
I thought he was excellent.
Very, very good. Now, Lee, before we let you go, man, because this has been such a great phone call, but I really want to run this idea past you that actually Joseph came up with this idea one day. We were talking on the phone about this same topic, and we were like, just again, we always think about ways to get more fans involved, and of course more fans to actually support the sport instead of pirating all the events, actually
financially. Yes.
Yeah. And we thought of this thing. Now, when you watch other sports, right, the other four major sports out there, when you're in a region, right, they're going to give you regional coverage of your team. It's going to be obviously biased towards your team, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the fans really want to hear. They don't want to go, like, if the game is also on national televised a channel, they're probably not going to go and listen to that. They're going to listen to their side, right? So
I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So Joe and I were thinking, and this is mostly his idea. I chimed in here and there, but he was thinking, why can't boxing do that, especially for a big fight like Spence Crawford? Offer the fans, say, look, if you purchase the fight, you have an opportunity to hear a commentary team that is pro Terrence Crawford or pro Earl Spence, or if you want, you can get the neutral side. What do you think of that, Lee?
Very interesting idea. I don't know what that does to the integrity of the various crews that are going to be hired to call a fight, totally for Terrence Crawford. I think that you would be better off getting like YouTube content creators who are naturally for that particular fighter to do that, instead of professional boxing announcers who are supposedly hired to be neutral.
Yes.
Well, yes, Lee, and once again, we talked about that, and that was one of the issues that G actually brought up. And I said, well, look, when we all get our start, right? Like I call pretty much most big events in South Texas, and I work with most promoters in Texas, right? And I do the commentary for all of it, and most of the time I get hired by the promoter. Yeah, I'm very, very proficient in calling it favorably for the promoter's fighter, right? And we all do that. And so once again, you look at and my favorite baseball team, the oldest MLB team in history,
Oh,
and that's the
boy.
Cincinnati Redlegs.
Cincinnati
Right,
Reds?
Cincinnati Reds. Yep. Big Reds fan, even though we lost 6 straight recently. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that. But so
Well, look,
the
I follow the Pirates, so I sympathize, right?
Oh boy, my condolences, my friend. And once again,
Yeah,
they started out great.
you know.
So going back to point though, what spurred this idea was when I bought every year, because I live in San Antonio, Texas. I have to see my Reds. I have to see every game. It just has become a part of my life, right? And I've been doing this,
Sure.
my entire life with my pops, right? And so now I have to order the MLB Extra Innings package. So with that Extra Innings package, they give you the option. Say we're playing G Funky's team right now, the San Francisco Giants.
Giants, baby.
And they give you the option. Do you want to hear local Giants coverage or do you want to hear local Reds coverage? Well, hell, why would I want to listen to a favorable Giants coverage? Why
Right.
would I want that? So this is what brought this on. And you know what? I was talking with several people. How do we get the boxing diehards involvement once again? Because let's just face it, overwhelmingly, the numbers have proven that they're not purchasing any of these pay-per-view events any longer. Numbers have proven this overwhelmingly. So how do we get them, instead of actually having these, fight parties on YouTube in which they gather to their own channel and they just all watch the fight and then hang out. And so what if you furnish something that was in favor of their favorite? Because correct me if I'm wrong, this has never been tried before, has it?
As far as the commentary, like 3 separate channels. They do this with the national championship game, right? You have, let's say, the Texas Longhorns, or you have the Longhorns telecast, you have the Alabama telecast, and then you have the national telecast, which is more down the middle, and you choose your channel.
That's right.
The only thing about it is that hopefully these fans that are listening to Pro Crawford channel, Pro Spence channel, and one down the middle, is that they're not listening to that commentary and trying to score the fight, and then going on Twitter and saying, "Oh, I got Crawford up 119 to 109," and then the Spence channel people go, "Well, I got Spence up 119 to 109," and then that just skews how you perceive the fight, because commentators do have power to persuade, especially in close rounds.
Yeah.
That okay, these guys are experts and they're saying that fighter A won the round, when in reality maybe fighter B edged it, and you see it all the time on Twitter. Here's a little historical tidbit, by the way. The first fight between Rocky Lockridge and Eusebio Pedrosa, I think it was on CBS. Okay. They did this one-time experiment. They had an electronic voting device, and they gave it to members of the audience, and they would vote who they thought won the round after every round, and then CBS would show a graphic as to how the vote broke down.
Wow.
Now, here was the flaw. The flaw was that the fight was held in New Jersey, and that was Rocky Lockridge's territory.
Yeah.
And there were a bunch of Rocky Lockridge fans, and so Pedrosa probably won the fight, but because the commentators saw that the fans were voting for Lockridge, and there were a lot of close rounds, and the commentary thought that Lockridge won the fight. And then when Pedrosa was announced as the winner, there was a big furor about it. So there's the kind of imperfection about that.
You know what, Lee? That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. Did you actually cover back in the day in Atlantic City? It was Goose and Tudor show. Did you cover Paul Williams versus Erislandy Lara?
No, but I wasn't a live ringside reporter back then. I was more of a columnist for Max Boxing, I believe then. Maybe
Very good.
it was when I was transitioning to boxing scene and then to Ring TV. I joined Ring TV in 2011, but I remember watching Lockridge Pedroza 1. Actually, I was shopping. I was shopping with my mom and my sister, and they had a bank of TVs, and they were tuned to the fight. So while they did their shopping, I watched the fight. You know.
Well, you
And I
sound like a
remember that
boxing fan,
particular
sir.
aspect of it.
Yes, that is.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh man, I'm so
Well,
glad that
look, Lee,
Oh,
the
go ahead.
reason why I brought it up, because ringside for that, and I covered that event, ringside, everyone on press row viewed that fight as 50-50. And in everyone's scorecards on press row, they reflected, yeah, some of them gave it to Arizlandes, some of them gave it to Paul Williams. But after hearing Max Kellerman's commentary, yeah, everyone thought it was a robbery. So
I think
it
the
goes
judges
both
were
ways,
suspended,
right?
were they not?
Yeah, they were. The judges were suspended for that
Yeah.
fight. Yeah.
And you know what? That's in my opinion, that seems a little harsh, because most people on press row saw it as a 50-50 fight and actually scored it accordingly.
Wow, that's interesting, because
yeah.
I feel like that was a robbery, as a one of the biggest robberies I've seen. But that's very interesting to hear, Joe. I'm glad you brought that to my attention right
So
now.
yeah, you're right. The commentary actually does indeed have a huge influence, which once again spells out the quandary. Yeah, you've got company guys now calling these fights, not like HBO, where you had 3 guys who worked for the network and didn't have any dog in the hunt, so to speak. They didn't have a preference.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially Larry Merchant. Larry Merchant was a writer, you know, from Philadelphia Daily News. He was an award-winning writer from before he ever came to television. And in fact, he got his start on NBC before he went over to HBO.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know what, Lee, could you ever remember a gentleman who could put a bow on an event like Larry Merchant?
Absolutely not. He was an absolute wordsmith. He was godlike when on in print, but when his ability to encapsulate an event just after it took place, and to do it seamlessly and in the first take live, that's a gift.
Yep.
Merchant is definitely
Larry the
something else,
Legend.
man. And nothing was better than, if I was 25 years younger, I'd kick your ass.
Wasn't that something? And I mean, the funny thing about that particular incident was Larry was in the middle of posing a question to Mayweather, and the gist of it was, I think Larry Merchant was going to give Floyd a compliment about being more aggressive. And I think Floyd spotted that, interpreted that as an attack on how he fought his past fights.
Yep.
And him being sensitive as he is and insecure as he is, he lashed out. And then we all saw what happened.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because you could see the expression on Larry's face. It took him by surprise. He didn't expect that at all.
I'm trying to be nice to you, Floyd, and you're reacting like that.
Woo!
That's a classic moment. But yeah, I definitely miss hearing those voices calling fights. But Lee, I'm so glad that you tuned into this episode tonight and, you know, chimed in. And again, you're just a fountain of information, man. And that's why I'm glad you called. And, you know,
thank you so much. And before I go, I'd like to make a plug for my podcast partner, James Smitty Smith.
Sure.
He has been in the game for his career spans radio, television, and now, you know, the internet. And in fact, he was part of the first live boxing event over the internet. He did the call for that. And, you know, I think that, you know, even before I got associated with him, I just was impressed by his ability to break down fights, to call fights. He's a blow-by-blow guy. He's a color guy. He's a roving reporter.
Yep.
He did radio. I think that he should be in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Really.
Indeed. Are you guys podcast with Smitty? Is it still being picked up by Boxing TV? Is the podcast still being picked up by Boxing TV?
World Weekly, yes.
Boxing World Weekly.
Okay, very good.
All right.
And we're on Fight.tv. They show us first. We're on every Saturday, and in fact, our guest this Saturday is Raul Marquez, and we're going to be breaking down Benson Crawford. So.
I love Raul, man. I met him again at that same Showtime Showbox card I covered in the spring this year. Great guy. Did an interview with him, and I hope to have him on this channel real soon. So, hey, Lee, again, thanks for the call, man. Great call. And
thank you.
Yeah, and enjoy the rest of your night, man. And hope to hear from you again soon, man.
All right. All the best to you guys. Have fun.
Thank you so much.
God bless you, sir. And thank you for your insight tonight, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Let's give him a hand, guys. Lee Groves. Just a fountain of information, man. A great historian. That's how you learn, guys.
That's it.
Often I've had people come here, like when I get a prediction right or something, like, gee, how did you know that? Nobody was seeing it that way. You know why? Because I listen to people, man. People smarter than me. I went to these gyms when I was younger. That's how I learned. I talked to the trainers. I watched my buddies train, and I shut my mouth and I opened my ears. That's how you learn, man. And
you know what, brother? And if you ask Lee how he learned, he's going to tell you the same exact thing.
Exactly. Round one here says, "Let's go Dodgers." All right, I'm not bro. I'm just kidding, bro.
Look. When you name a team after a bunch of vagabonds, that's not good. That's not good. The Brooklyn Bums.
Oh boy!
Seriously, did you know their original mascot was a bum?
Really? No, I had no idea.
Yes. And yeah, they were called very and once again, their fans. It was a sign of affection or a term of endearment to them, but only them. Yeah, they were the Brooklyn Bums.
Route one is sad now. Hey, man, I'm gonna have to use that on some of the Dodgers people that I know in my personal life. Thank you for that information, Joe.
You know what, brother? Because they used to be in the National League Central, just like you guys. Or because we used to be in the National League West, just like you guys. Yeah. Hey, it's my pleasure entirely, brother. Because the Dodgers used to kick our ass on a regular basis. There you go.
Fotex here says Bruce Buffer does have a hell of a voice to introduce UFC fights. Joe, what is your take on Bruce Buffer? I don't know if you heard him. He does the UFC.
Of course. Look. And this is what I'm saying. It's perception. Because I'm sorry, what were your thoughts? And please be honest. What were your thoughts the first time you heard Bruce Buffer, the great Michael Buffer's brother, for the very first time? What were your honest thoughts?
Well, the first time I heard his name, I was like, "Is this Michael Buffer's brother?"
Yep. And once again, you look at his face. Is that his adopted Elmer Fudd looking brother?
Yeah, they don't look much alike. But
no.
Oh, excuse me, guys. Dad, I'm on dad clock.
Yep.
But yeah, the first time I heard him, I was like, I mean, the UFC was kind of making their comeback, from their original thing that they had going, like in the mid 90s.
Brutal, unwatchable.
Yeah. So, at the time, it was kind of like, I didn't really think much of it. But over time, now when I hear him, right, even though I don't watch a whole lot of UFC, now when I hear him, I definitely think of UFC. But it took some time.
Once again, it's perception. He sounds now. His voice is synonymous. His cadence, the way he delivers that announcement, it's synonymous with big-time UFC events. Just like, guys, there's one thing that UFC has advantage over boxing coverage. They've got Joe Rogan, the most popular podcast in the world.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan is the color guy for every major UFC event.
Yep. We need a
That's
guy like that.
huge, guys.
We need a guy like that doing some color for boxing. Voltexer wants to know our thoughts on a mega fight between Alf and ET.
I got it. You know what? And once again, I love both characters. Once again, I love me some ET. Reminds me when I was getting ready to join the teenagers, right? Back then. But I will say this, I love me some Gordon Shumway as well. I will say this, in my opinion, it plays out almost identically to Alexis Arguello and Aaron Pryor. Once again, Alexis Arguello being Alf, he's holding his own, right? He's holding his own, but E.T. with that Heartlight, with that mix, right?
That mix.
He's going to be able to have that recovery powers at the end of the fight when Alf is starting to get tired, and he just comes on, uncorks an ass whooping, and stops Alf in the championship rounds. That's my prediction.
Oh, man. Nice breakdown there. Fotex likes it as well. But, guys, serious question, though. The question that I asked Lee Groves, would you guys be interested if that was an option for you when you ordered your pay-per-view and they said, hey, look, we're offering for the fight, more Terrence Crawford coverage on this side, more Earl Spence coverage on this side, or you can just go with the regular broadcast. Like, I mean, I feel like a lot of fans, especially with the influence of the YouTube boxing community, right? And Lee, again, always on point. He said it himself,
Yep.
Maybe get some YouTube guys who are, always the pro Crawford, always the pro Spence guys, to do that instead of maybe hurting the integrity of some other commentators by, telling them, yeah, be more biased or whatnot. But I feel like, again, because when I watch other sports, I don't want to hear the other team's coverage.
Nope.
Fuck that shit. Like if we're playing, like, again, to go back to the Giants and Dodgers, that's a bitter rivalry.
Yep.
There's no fucking way I'm going to listen to the Dodgers pregame show.
Look,
shit.
Look, yeah, I agree. And look, as brilliant as Vin Scully was, no, I couldn't stand hearing his voice when he played the Reds. Anyone else? Yeah, I love Vin Scully. He was an all-time great. And once again, he used the old sing-song method. And once again, Manny being Manny, that Vin Scully was a classic, and very few guys these days appreciate that sing-song inflection in their voice. But yeah, and look, in terms of, and Lee brought up a very, very good point. Well, you don't want to, tarnish the integrity of the broadcast or the health of the sport with a slanted call. Then it'll affect how people perceive the fight. Well, that happens already. Once again, you have with calls that are right down the middle, with integrity at heart, you still get ad nauseum cries of robbery and corruption, even from guys who are in this business like Teddy Atlas. There's robbery, corruption. We need a centralized governing body. Yeah. So
Teddy Atlas is on point.
We're already getting that, guys. We're already getting that. So what you can do, though, if you watch a slanted coverage, you can always blame, it's the only reason why you see it that way. Well, you saw the slanted coverage. So you know what? Just take it like a man. Mm-hmm. Take the loss like a man, brother. You could always blame it on that, right?
Yeah. And to Lee's point as well about, the scoring, as far as the scoring goes on pro side, hell, just show Steve Farhood's unofficial scorecard, I mean,
yep.
It is what it is, like they'll just don't let the guys who are pro Crawford or pro Spence actually give their score, just have them be pro their guy, and
well, yeah. And this is why I would shy away from getting YouTubers, because once again, although YouTubers, they're great at what they do, and like they've got great channels, but very few of them are real journalists, right? Very few of them, and they really wouldn't know how to make that call. Like when you listen to Cowboy radio, when you listen to Cincinnati Reds radio, they're still professionals.
Yes.
They still can make the call. And the difference is, yeah, they're going to announce that the Dodgers hit a home run. They're just not going to do it as emphatically. That's the biggest difference.
Like I'll give you an example here. Like with my Giants, we have Dwayne Kuiper, who does the commentating for the Giants. You know, if someone hits a home run on the opposite team, he's like, "Oh, hits a big shot and it's out of here." You know.
Yep.
And if it's someone on the Giants, it's he hits it high, he hits it deep, it's out of here. You know, like
guys, that's it. That's it, guys. And look, you're already getting that influence. It's already happening, guys. You're just not getting it both ways. Okay, you're already getting it with Top Rank being on ESPN exclusively. Yeah, that's what Haney was complaining about. That's what Haney fans were complaining about. Oh, Lomachenko this, Lomachenko that, Loma. Man, no wonder everyone thought he was robbed. Right? And you get the same thing on DAZN. You get the same thing on Showtime. Okay, this is what happens when you don't have a network that has a working relationship with every promoter. You're already getting it. Why not, though, get the coverage that you want? Why not?
Yeah.
And once again, if you already like the coverage that is offered, you know what? It's still available through the cable and satellite distribution method. If that's what you want, you can still get Mauro Ranallo. You can still get Abner Mates. You can still get Al Bernstein and Steve Farhood.
Yep. That's the third option there. Chauncey Pearls. Hey, Chauncey, how you doing, man? I haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for showing up, man. We appreciate it. He says, I think Mauro Ranallo has legit passion for what he does and makes things exciting. I know some don't like his commentary, but I've always loved his enthusiasm. And look, again, just because I say I don't get big fight feels from these guys today doesn't mean that they're not good. Obviously, they have to be very good to have a major network ask them to call these events for them. So yeah, he's definitely good, man. But maybe they need to grow on me, these guys. I don't know. But today I went back and I listened to some old calls from Barry Tompkins, and I was just like, oh, I would love to hear that voice call Spence Crawford next Saturday. It would just give that fight that feel, because he has called, again, some of the biggest fights in the history of the sport, man. The biggest fights in history.
And also, you brought this up, and this was the difference maker in my mind, because once again, I have a ton of respect for Mauro Ranallo. He's very smart, very sharp, very quick-witted, very enthusiastic, and he has a very convincing and enthusiastic delivery. But in my opinion, when I first noticed him, or when I first caught wind of him, he was calling second-rate events for WWE.
Yeah, WWE, yep.
So in my mind, forever etched in my mind, he will always be a WWE leftover, right?
Yeah, first time I heard him was back at least 23 years ago, if not 24 years ago, when I discovered the Pride FC fighting championship that was over in Japan. And he did the commentary there as well. Fotex says a lot of channels will disappear July 29th. You know, Fotex, I've been in this community for a long time. It won't be the first time, man. I've seen guys change channels at least 3-4 times because the fighter that they were fanboying for took a couple losses. You know, that's a sad thing. Chauncey Pro says, I think that it is what it is. They have to grow on you. Lampley, Letterman, Merchant are missed, like Chick Hearn is missed with the Lakers. Ooh, and how Scully is missed with the Dodgers. You know, I actually got a chance to listen to old Chick Hearn call some games. I was actually down in Los Angeles. I have a lot of family down in that area when my uncle was getting married, and that's exactly when the Kings and the Lakers were in that Western Conference Finals, and we were driving in. and we weren't going to make it to my uncle's house in time to watch the game because of that LA traffic. So we tuned into the radio, and let me tell you, man, that guy knew how to paint a picture over the radio.
Yep.
I mean, Jesus, he was phenomenal, man. Rest in peace, Chick
Yep.
Hearn. Definitely
Well,
one of the all-time
look,
greats.
and look, I always listen to Cowboy Radio. As much as I love Troy Aikman as a player, yeah, he grinds on my last nerve. Grinds on my last nerve when he's with Joe Buck. It's almost like he goes out of his way to prove that he's an unbiased. He's the CJ Ross of commentators. You know, Dallas Cowboys right now are just shooting themselves in the foot, and they really can't they're just not in sync. And, you know, it's a real shame to watch. You're going to have serious problems against this 49er defense. And I'm like, shut up. Shut your ass, Troy. So always I'll put on the TV and I'll listen to my boys on Cowboy Radio. Brad Sham and Babe Laufenberg. Thank you very much.
Yes. And Chauncey says that he was rooting for the Kings during that rivalry. Hey, I appreciate that, man. And we got robbed. All right. Say hit it, Teddy. It was a robbery.
It was a robbery, corruption. We're mad as heck, and we're not going to take it anymore.
Oh, man, that is so good, man. Unbelievable. Yeah, I remember all the Wilder fans that ran away after Fury beat him. I mean, I could tell you, I've seen guys shut down their channels after Pacquiao was knocked out by Marquez, after he lost to Mayweather, after Kovalev lost to Ward. I mean, just over and over and over again. Same guy, too. That's the funny thing. Same guy. Shuts down his channel, comes back, and you know, that's funny, man. I've been here 12 years, man. I ain't going nowhere, man. That's because I don't do the fanboy thing. Okay. But again, the thing is this. If you're a fan of a fighter, that's fantastic. That is great. I have no problem with it. The problem is, again, some of these guys take it too serious, and then that's when they shut down the channel, go running off, and, you know, like, I mean, those are the type of fans right there that I just can't stand. But for fans that want to hear that coverage, though, of their favorite fighter in that big fight, again, more bias towards them. I mean, I feel like a lot of fans would go for that, man. I really do.
I think so as well, brother.
Fotek says he was salty when Pat got knocked out by Marquez. Let me tell you, I was happy, man, because when I came into this community, it was during the time when the Mayweather and Pacquiao fans were going at it, and those guys used to come on my channel all the time.
Insane.
Oh, man, and talk a lot of shit, especially after he lost to Bradley, because I actually broke down that fight and predicted Bradley to win that first fight. So you know they were mad at that one. But guys, we'll stick around for a few more minutes. Take another phone call if anybody wants to call in. If not, no worries, man. We're just trying to. Joe and I are always thinking about ways to improve the sport, to get people to fans to become better fans and support the sport. Right. That's it. And that's why we're thinking for this fight, because this fight is real important, man, for boxing, because the next week we got a circus act with Jake Paul and Nate Diaz the very next week after Spence Crawford. And we really want this event to outshine that event. We really want this event to do well, because if not, guys, I mean, we're gonna get the clown show more and more often.
Hit the button, brother. Hit the button if they don't purchase.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
That's what we're gonna have to tell you. All right.
There it is.
And
look,
if you don't,
guys, in the words of someone very integrally involved with this event, basically stating, look, this is your event. You guys asked for it. Okay. And if you're not happy with the promotion, if you don't think we're reaching to a large enough mainstream and casual demographic, you know what? I can't think of any better ambassador for boxing than the diehard fan. Go promote this fight, guys. Go tell everyone, every major sports fan in America, guys, you have to see this fight. right? You're gonna be thinking 20 years from now, hey, where did you see Spence versus Crawford?
Yep. And that's the great thing about boxing. And Joe, I want you to tell the listeners right now and everyone that's going to listen to this once we end it, what you're going to be doing next Saturday for the fight.
Oh, yeah, guys. So as part of a promotion with one of the promoters that I'm working with, South Park Boxing AAA Promotions, I'm going to be hosting, if you're in the South Texas area, hey, come on over to San Antonio, Dave and Buster's, only charging $10 to come in and watch the fight. I'm going to be hosting a fight party, which I'm going to be dressed, donned in my ring announcing tux. I'm going to be doing all of my ring announcing. I'm going to be doing all of the impressions of the big three at the very least: Michael Buffer, Jimmy Lennon Jr., and Lupe Contreras, as well as my original cadence. And I'm going to have probably about 9 of the fighters that are going to be on a card in San Antonio, Texas on August 26th. So, guys, there's no excuse. If you don't want to host a fight party in your house, and, sometimes I can't blame you. And if you think you can't afford it, money's tight for everyone. Go to Dave & Buster's. Go to Dave & Buster's. There's a D&B in every major metropolitan area. There's no excuse, and they're only charging $10. But if you're in the South Texas area, come by and say hi, guys. I'm going to be calling the action. We're going to do pre-fight commentary. We're also going to be giving our expert commentary with, I just confirmed this today, and ring announcer, drum roll, please. And my color guy on the evening giving his expert call on this, the one and only Jesse James Leha.
Oh, yeah. Jesse James Leha. A legend. Yep. Man. Wow, that's great, Joe. Yep. And see, these are the type of events that we need more businesses to have, that have like that atmosphere, like a Dave & Buster's, or even like some of your local bars or things like that. We gotta figure out a way to get boxing back to where it used to be, man. And hey, we got a super chat here from a man, Chauncey says, not a fanboy, but I'm on record. Spence is going to beat Bud easier than what pundits and media think. It won't be an easy fight, but Spence is going to wreck. Oh, boy. Thanks for the $5 super chat, man. Appreciate it, Chauncey. I will be doing some coverage of that fight next week, guys, and I'm hoping to get the great Coach James Gogi to come on and break the fight down with me. I think that's going to be a fantastic show, guys. So you're not going to want to miss it.
James Gogi.
Yeah, you're not going to want to miss it, guys.
So
Mad Dog H is here as well.
But before you leave, G Funky, I know it's getting late. Before you say goodnight to everyone, let's go back to the original topic. In your mind, who would make the best commentary team? Once again, perception is everything, guys. Once again, there's very little that separates someone like Joe Buck and Mauro Ranallo. It's just that fan perception, in my opinion. Mauro Ranallo, I think, is actually better. But Joe Buck, for some reason, he's synonymous with big-time sporting events in America. He's called the Super Bowl. He's called the World Series. He calls every major event. He is the A-team on Fox, right? So if you had your druthers for a big-time boxing event like Spence Crawford, who would you actually get to make the call?
Man, I could pick anybody.
Anyone who's still, well, you could even get someone who's semi-retired.
Yeah, I mean, I put Tompkins on the poll because he still calls fights, and he actually works for Showtime. Excuse me. But I would, man, yeah. If Tompkins wouldn't want to do it, because like you said, he does take, he took the smaller role willingly. He's getting up there. But boy, I would love to hear his voice on the air call this fight. But I'd have to say Jim Lampley. Jim Lampley to call it. As far as the color goes, I always was a big fan of George Foreman. Big George Foreman was always fun. I know it sounds like the freaking HBO team,
No,
but
no.
I loved
Dude,
Foreman.
it was the most recognizable mainstream platform for boxing for a reason. And didn't you just love it when Big George, would start arguing with Larry Merchant? Wasn't that a
Yes.
beautiful thing on the air?
Oh, yes. I remember specifically, and I've always bring this up, watching Oscar fight Ike Corte. And Corte Bazooka was starting to take over, man, late to mid to late rounds. And I remember Larry Merchant saying, George, I don't see Oscar doing a lot these rounds. And then George, because he was so pro Oscar De La Hoya, he loved him some Oscar, boy. I remember him saying back to Larry, not much is a lot for De La Hoya. Not much is a lot.
Woo!
That was fantastic.
Well, I tell you what, George, for he got an A+ for charisma, but he wasn't the most eloquent of speakers, was he?
No, but I think that's what made him
Endearing.
such a big fan favorite. Yeah, because he could relate to the boxing fan in a way, As we, you got the wordsmiths like Merchant and Lampley, and then you got Foreman. Yeah, it was just a great combination, man. And I also liked Roy. Don't get me wrong. When George stepped away, Roy was good.
Roy was great too.
Yeah, he was really, really good, man.
You want to hear something comical, right? Go listen to Ricardo Mayorga pulling off the massive upset over Vernon Forrest, and listen to how many times George Foreman murders Ricardo Mayorga's surname. Mariago's coming on. Yeah, he calls him Mariago at one point.
Yeah. What about one of my favorite fighters, Julio Cesar Chavez? You call him Chavez.
Oh yeah. Oh, look, and also Sugar Ray Leonard when he used to do TVKO, right?
Yeah.
He was the only person I could remember, I think, who thought that jab actually was 2-syllable word. He's got to start using that jab. Do you remember that?
Yes. Shout out to Sugar Ray, man. Man, this is great memories thinking about these old commentary. I remember.
You know what, guys? And before you go on, G Funky, I'm just going to say this, and this is why boxing will always have a leg up on UFC. You know why? Because you hear this stuff that we're all talking about. Guess what? UFC doesn't have that. They don't have that.
No,
nope.
Man.
They don't have the lineage. They don't have the history. They don't have the memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can guarantee you this: as much as or as cheap as Dana White is, I don't think it's going to be around 20 years from now either. That's just my prediction.
Oof. Yeah, that's a possibility, man. Because like you said, he's as tight as a snare drum. All right. And
look, somewhere in the world, there are a bunch of Indians. Oh, you know what that Dana White boy says? Boy, that is a tight, cheap ass motherfucker. Seriously. And everyone knows that collectively they are the cheapest people on the planet. And that's not a joke. They take great pride in that. Man, you are cheap. No, I think the word that you're looking for is smart.
Frugal.
Seriously, they're proud of it, man. God bless them.
Chauncey says, good night. I'm hyped for the Spence Bud fight. I hope they both make weight healthy and the fight goes through and it lives up to the hype. Yeah, man, I'm excited as well. And thank you for tuning in and for the super chat, Chauncey. Great. You're a great subscriber, man. I appreciate it. This fight, I'm really getting excited, guys. And as excited as I am for Inoue Fulton, which is a fantastic matchup.
Indeed.
This fight is taking away some of that shine, man. I'm not gonna lie, man. It's been hard for me to kind of sit down and say, you know what? It's time for me to get some sequences together for my breakdown for the fight. But I'm just like, yeah, but Spence Crawford, I got to get that one. It just keeps coming into my mind. It's a big fight, man. Undisputed at 147. And it's a fight again that we've been wanting for so long. I had the same feeling. I had the same feeling when Benavidez and Plant was fighting. Dave, my other partner, Dave, he came out with me. We did our prediction on that fight. And yeah, I was excited because again, it was a grudge match. There was bad blood there. There was real heat, you know, and these guys got a long history together, Spence and Crawford. So we're finally gonna, in the words of the late great Mills Lane, let's get it on.
And there it is. And there it is. Yeah, look, guys. Look, Inoue Fulton, great fight. I should say Fulton Inoue, right? He's the champion. But
Yes.
before 2 years ago, was anyone talking about that matchup?
Nope.
No. People have been talking about this one for the past half decade.
Mhm.
And there it is. And there it is.
Yep. So, guys, yeah, I think my question, does today's commentary have that big fight feel? At least for me, I'll say no as of right now. But maybe like some of the Lee said it, and some of the people in the chat as well, that maybe it just got to grow on me, and over time we'll develop that same kind of feel that we did with Tompkins and the Lampleys and the Foremans and the Merchants and the Lettermans, we'll see, man. But as of right now, man, I would love to have one of these guys. Yeah.
Before you go, let me ask you something. Has mumble rap grown on you yet?
Nope. And it probably never will.
And why is that?
Because it's awful.
That's it. That's it. Guys, you can try to put perfume on a pig, but it won't do any good.
Yep.
Look, guys, it is what it is. We grew up watching a better product, listening to a better product. No offense. Guys, in the immortal words of Bruce Trampler, boxing today has become unrecognizable all around the board. The fighters, commentators, networks, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and I've always wanted to ask you this. I'm glad you brought up Bruce, who's a tremendous boxing guy and a very nice gentleman. I met him as well when I covered the Top Rank card. But I want to ask you about Top Rank's Mark Schnook. What do you think about his ring announcing, man?
Honestly, he is a really talented guy. He's a Broadway guy. He's a singer, actually. He has got a set of pipes on him. That's why, his forte is doing the live ring announcing. And he is loud. Because
Yes.
I'm 55, he's a lot louder, stronger than I am now. He reminds me of when I was in my 20s and 30s, where I had, I was called, when I was singing back then, I still sing, but boy, I was a spriteful youngin'. I was called, my musician friends used to call me the air raid siren. Yeah, and he is like that. He has such a strong voice. In my opinion, he is extremely underrated. And there's a reason why they have him doing most of the interviews now. Him being the voice of Top Rank Boxing instead of who is the pretty young lady? What's her name?
Oh, Christina Poncher.
Yeah, Christina Poncher. She's very good, but this gentleman is much better.
Yeah, and I got a chance to hear his voice in person, man. He is really, really good.
It's strong, isn't it?
And I feel like his voice, what I like about him, or I should say I like about his style, is that it's pretty original, I don't really feel like I see some of the guys that are on some of the regional cards that I've gone to and things like that. You could tell that they're kind of almost emulating a certain style.
That's it.
He's pretty original, man. And of course you got the big two at the top with Jimmy Lennon, who I think is the best in the business, followed by Michael Buffer. I have to say, man, not a fan of Diamante. I'm just not. And again, no disrespect to the guy. I'm not saying that he's no good. It's just, for me, I just don't feel it, man.
He's a terribly nice guy. But yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, ever since he used to call events like back at the Turning Stone in Connecticut, right?
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of his back then either. But once again, he's a great guy. Even though he probably can't remember the last time he washed his hair. But
Oh,
otherwise, yeah, he works hard. But I bet you his pillow smells wonderful, doesn't it?
Oh boy. Well, he's got some hair, that's for sure, man. Let's see here. Fotex says, no lie, I got Jim Ross up there from WWF. Good
Boomer-
old
Boomer-
JR.
Boomer Sooner, baby. Boomer Sooner. I will say this at this point. Michael Coles, that's his name, right? The
Michael
SmackDown guy.
Cole. Yeah.
You know, Michael Cole, he would probably, boxing probably would be better off getting Michael Cole call a big event because
Well,
he's been a part of so many WWE big events in the past.
Well, can you imagine good old JR calling boxing and then someone gets knocked out and he does the whole repetitive thing that he does with like Stone Cold, Stone Cold, Stone Cold, you know?
Woo! You know what? You know what? You just swung me, brother. You didn't just twist my arm, brother. You broke it. I am sold on JR, baby. Woo! I love it. But look, for my money, WWF will always be for big time events. Gorilla Monsoon making the call.
Ah, yes.
And Jesse Ventura criticizing him for it.
Jesse the Body was him and Gorilla Monsoon the best. And look, Bobby Heenan, when Jesse left to WCW and Heenan came in, I mean, boy, he wasn't far behind Jesse. They were a great pair too, calling wrestling matches.
Absolutely.
And Heenan was just hilarious with his jokes. You know, Jesse is a little more serious because obviously he's a wrestler. You know, he's an ex-pro wrestler.
Yep.
So there's times where don't tell me anything about that Monsoon. You know. I can't do a very good Jesse.
I love it. No. I love it, man. And you know what? That's why do you think I use the term? Where do you think I got the term ham and egger from? That's Bobby Heenan.
Yeah,
that's Bobby Heenan, brother. That's right from Bobby Heenan. Why do you think I always say brother? That's
Hogan.
straight from Hulk Hogan, brother. Like
guys,
I love borrowing from classic WWF. Those guys are my heroes.
Oh yeah, they're the best, and they entertain, and that's what boxing really needs to is guys to entertain while they're calling a fight. But if you guys want to hear some magic on the mic, listen to, if you have the WWE Network, or I think that actually it's on free on YouTube. Look up the 1992 Royal Rumble, where Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan are calling that match. And because Heenan managed Ric Flair at the time, and Ric Flair's in the Royal Rumble, of course, he's just, you know, so biased towards towards Ric Flair, and Monsoon reminds him about it throughout the whole match. You're supposed to be a broadcast journalist, Heenan, what's the matter with you?
So just like Lamont with his with Fred Sanford, right? How many times can you count? How many times Monsoon said, "Will you stop, Brain"? Like how many times did he actually say that? Yeah, like honestly,
times.
That is classic wrestling. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you for bringing that up. That's what boxing needs today. Look, as much as I love Todd Grisham, once again, a product of WWE. As much as I love me some Latin Snake, Sergio Mora, great guy. You know, they're just not synonymous with big time boxing guys.
No, and for me, the Zone currently is at the bottom when it comes to PA announcing, commentary, and again, I mean, look, I have to rank them. You know, we have to. For me, they're number 3.
Hold on, real quick, brother. I need to get something real quick. Hold on, real quick.
Yeah. So just for me, you know, Grisham, Mora, and Mannix. Yeah, man. I mean, Mannix to me, I really don't understand. And correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that's listening, but wasn't he like an NBA guy? Wasn't he like covering the NBA before he came over to the DAZN commentary team? Like, and man, he has some of the most awful scorecards too, man. Like, when I'm watching him score fights, and then like they're showing his scorecard after, you know, 4 or 5 rounds, whenever they do it, I'm just like, Okay, you know, it's very rare that I score a fight the same or close to identical to Chris Mannix. You know, I mean, that's Voltec says boxing commentary needs to learn from Mexican commentary. They put their emotions in. Oh yeah, man. When they call, especially the World Cup games, they go fucking nuts, man. Even like the way that my guy John Miller calls for the Giants. He's the radio guy when a Hispanic player hits a home run, he'll say "Adios pelota," you know. Like, but yeah, I got you, man. Definitely, the soccer commentary is just on another level, man. I mean, those guys sound like they're singing opera when a guy scores a goal. You're like, "Goal!" You know. Like, let's see who was / is the Undertaker of boxing, huh? Currently, or of any time? Because currently I have to think about that. But yeah, the Undertaker, one of the best wrestlers to ever do it, man. But yeah, I do think that, you know, a little bit of entertainment as well would help today's boxing commentary, because especially the zone side, it's just a little dull for me, you know. Very, very dull. And I have to say, and again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the women, right? But listening to that Alicia Baumgartner card that took place on Saturday, and they had uh Claudia and Franchon calling the fights, that was not. I'm sorry, man. It just wasn't good. It just wasn't good. I just gotta be honest with you, man. Ricardo Mayorga is Eddie Guerrero. That's pretty funny. That is pretty funny, man. I don't know. Right now, I might have to say fucking Jojo Diaz might be the Undertaker. He keeps dying and coming back. You know, looks like he's dead, and he comes back, gets a fight with a name, and hey, congratulations to Diaz. You know, he got a win in his last fight, and it looks like he might be getting a shot at Floyd Schofield, Kid Austin, by the end of the year. So yeah, fantastic matchup there, and a big step up in competition for Floyd Schofield, man. But yeah, guys, if you haven't voted on the poll yet, make sure you do that. I'm going to check it again real quickly to see if we got any new votes before we wrap this one up. Let's see. No, we're still at the same. Barry Tompkins is still in the lead, 53% to 47% over Mauro Ranallo. And let me check Twitter, because I put the same poll on Twitter. So let me check that one as well. Currently, yep, the same. 55% for Ranallo and 45% for Tompkins, man. And yeah, like I said, man, go back and listen to, you know, and the fights are still on YouTube. You know, you can watch Leonard versus Hearns, Hagler. You can watch Pryor Arguello, and Tompkins is calling those fights, man. And yeah, when you hear it, it just, man, it just gives you that holy shit. Like, this is a big fight. Yeah, Fotex, just go to my community tab. Just go to my channel and click the community tab, and you'll see that I put a poll there asking who would you rather hear call the fight this Saturday, or not this Saturday, next Saturday, Mauro Ranallo or Barry Tompkins. So yeah, guys, I'm not quite sure where Joe is. Hopefully everything's okay. But yeah, I think I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. This has been a really fun show. I want to give Lee Groves a lot of credit, man. He was there in talks. Where'd you hear that? Where'd you hear that, folks? Did you hear that on Twitter? Somebody report that on Twitter? Let me see. Let me check. I mean, not surprising. I'll be quite honest with you. I mean, that seems like a pretty big fight. I mean, Munguia's got himself a nice following. Benavidez sells well in his region. So yeah, it could be a big fight if it takes place in Vegas or Southern California. But yeah, not surprising at all. I mean, according to a lot of fans, both guys need to step up, right? I've heard that quite often with Benavidez beating Caleb Plant in his last fight. Fans are still saying that he needs to step up and fight someone on his level. Munguia badly needs a 50-50 fight or an underdog. So yeah, wouldn't shock me if that fight actually does happen. Wouldn't shock me at all, man. Uh, so yeah, man, I'm gonna wrap this one up, guys. Hopefully everything's all right with my man Joe. But I want to thank him for joining me tonight. Thank Lee Gross for calling in, and all of you guys for listening in and leaving comments, and Chauncey Pearls for the $5 super chat. Is great, man. Thank you guys so much. So we'll see you guys on the next one. I might be on tomorrow. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys then. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good night.